All right, we are live. Welcome to the GovCon Playbook. We're going to be discussing the an interesting topic that I think is all of these large government contractors. They have, a collection of companies they've acquired over the years. So I wanted to ask you, Randall, what do you think? So I did some quick research. Lockheed Martin has acquired over 60 companies since 1981. They have 120 companies they've acquired in their venture arm. So, like, that's a separate entity of Lockheed Martin. Essentially the same, though. Raytheon, they've acquired 13, Boeing, 26. All these companies, and this is just in the defense space, but you also have this in industry. Apple acquires companies, Meta, all that sort of stuff. It's a huge deal. What's the difference, really, from a large corporation acquiring all these companies and adding it to their verticals, their product lines, that sort of thing, and just a hedge fund or an investment firm who goes out and kind of does the same thing? Is there a difference, or essentially they just the same thing?
I mean, you're you're buying capacity, you're buying advantage, you're buying, opportunity. You're buying control, intellectual property. That sounds like a hedge fund.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like just taking market position on something, that sounds like a hedge fund. And guess what? I bought, uh, I bought two companies. I'm looking for a third, a fourth, a fifth. I mean, it's just you're making your money work for you. I guess that's yeah. That's somebody told me the other day. They're like Josh. They were like Randall. We heard about what you're doing. This is it's a holding. It's a hoco, right? I was like, okay. When somebody uses that slang like hoco, like they're really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
They
They're
got the
like
company lingo.
they're like yeah, you're a hoco. Have you thought about having a family office? Like, yeah, I mean, at some point, that's what it is. At some point,
Yeah.
you're hedging your bet. That's it.
So why would they do that opposed to just building it internally? Like, for instance, I know there was an acquisition recently with Leidos and Dynetics here in Huntsville, right? Huge deal. They bought, the entire Dynetics. It was a huge, massive deal, billions of dollars, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
For a company like Leidos, why would they buy a company instead of just competing with it and trying to poach? Is it just a longer play? So they just that it's all like analytical, it's just an Excel spreadsheet. Is that how that works? Or like I'm just trying to understand the thought process.
Well, I mean, I know. So, like, Leidos has bought a company, sold the company, bought it back, sold it back. They do that back and forth, back and forth. Um, obviously, from a contracting standpoint, if you need 400 people to work on a contract and it's classified or it's this or it's that, and you need those people for this contract, so you buy the company, you put them on this contract, and then that contract's over, you need them in another contract, you sell the company to another company, make a deal, and you're just shuffling people around. But it's always infinitely cheaper than starting, because when you start, you also have to get your customer moved over. You have to get all your stuff set up, get all the people input, yada yada, and then you might have space requirements. But I saw a company in Huntsville. I was literally standing in their office, and their CFO was like, "Yeah, we got a lot going on today. It's a little busy." I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, we just moved 1,000 people from one company to another. The
Hmm.
other company was across the hall." And
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, we just moved them to take this contract, and we got tax. There's probably tax savings. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're saving a lot of money. You're making more money. Yeah, I mean, but it's just cheaper.
All these companies are changing hands so much. I mean, in my personal experience, I remember there was Cass. So Cass was then bought by Wiley. Then Wiley was bought slash merged with KBR, so it became KBR Wiley. So, but the funny thing is, a lot of the engineers from Cass were still around by the time it finally ended up as KBR Wiley. Like, the engineers never really changed. The customer never changed. What they were doing never really changed. It just kind of traded hands, kind of this hot potato thing. Um, I'm sure the founders of, whenever it switched, someone got a huge payout at some point along that road, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, but it is just curious to me when these companies are buying, do you think they're primarily going after talent or they're going after contracts? For instance, with Cass, they had a huge contract for Patriot System. When they got bought, that contract just moved straight over to the new company.
Right.
Some of the employees came as well. Some of them didn't. So I'm just curious, like, when is it dependent on whatever the flavor of the day is, or is it like no? Most of these companies are going after talent, like you said. You have to bring in 1,000 seats and fill them. It's just easier to go out and find a company that has 1,000 people already working at it and move them over. Or is it no? They have all these big contracts, and if we buy the company, we can buy those contracts essentially.
Well, I know buying contracts is a pretty big deal. It's something I definitely engage in. Buying the company for the contract, but there's a couple things that stand out. I see the company buy another company because they had a contract already and they got them, but the customer was involved. They knew it was happening, and they were like, as long as our people stay the same, we're fine. Don't hire new people. All right, great. But then I saw another one where somebody sized out of a program. They got too big. It was like a small business contract, let's say $40 million, and they had other work going on. They ended up at $100 million. Well, they sold the company and sold off parts of the contracts to stay small. A big absorbed them, yes, for all the other stuff, but then they sold off into the big. Small stay small, keeps working, but it's controlled by the big. They might take 41%, 49% or whatever, but they take effective management control right away. But there's another instance where the large bought the small that was an incumbent on a contract that they wanted to get,
Hmm.
so they could maintain a small business, a size standard, and then keep operating, even though it's really a large company, which is
Right.
kind of what Secretary Hegseth got into. He's like, we're not doing that anymore. A few weeks ago on the news, it's like
Yeah.
this is not working.
Yeah.
But
That
yeah,
was another thing I noted. Like going into that, it's a little bit of a lie, is it not? Or maybe I'm not going to go that
a
far.
whole lot.
It's a little bit deceptive for a company who says, "Hey, we're a small business, service disabled, whatever all the catchphrases are, and government contracting specifically." When in reality, it's like, well, we actually own like 15 of these companies, and you're like, well, that's not really accurate, then, is it? Like
Right, right.
do you think that's just a game that once you reach a certain number, you just have to start playing it? Or I'm just curious on your, because to me, it feels the whole point is like, hey, we want to make it fair for new emerging companies, new technologies, more competitive marketplace to bring in these companies who can solve problems and deliver goods and services. But when you have these larger companies just gaming that system, it seems very unfair. Is that accurate in your experience, or are you like, no, I think that there's still some kind of blue water to go after from a small company perspective?
I mean, there's always blue water, blue ocean, as they say. It's always there. I think. I mean, I run into it with the bigs. Yeah, there was a company that starts with H and ends in L, and sounds the same. I went after one of their customers
Yeah,
for a very important engine. And man, let me just be straight up. They came, they came and found me, and
really.
yeah, dude, they were like, no, they play the game really, really hard. They're not. They, they do have an unfair advantage because they can afford to do. They can afford to do stuff like that. They can afford to come after you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They can afford to go wine and dine a customer. And if people think that customers aren't wine and dineable, then you're kidding yourself. Um, from generals down to KOs down to specialists in these contracting offices, yeah, they accept bribes all the time. They 100%. Uh, not all of them, obviously, and if, contrary to what people think, not everybody's bribable, but there are a lot of people that do accept money in exchange for favor on contract negotiations. Um, so I mean, it's just an unfair advantage. But the good thing is, though, the good thing is that yes, the climate is changing. We do have more ability now to to compete, but it's still a who you know world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would tell you, Josh, like I can't afford to go fight the bigs. What I can afford to do is hire a PR person that's a specialist on positioning,
Hmm.
and they can put me in the rooms
Yeah.
where I can get to the people. Um, but no, it is unfair what they're doing. It's totally unfair. When you have $1 billion to play with, you can you can show up in the Hamptons and happen to be walking down the beach in front of this house where this two-star happens to be vacationing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So then shifting away from those larger companies to running a small, medium-sized business,
Hmm.
do you think that you should be under the mindset of, hey, when I'm running this business, I should be building it in such a way that it is sellable or that it is attractive to someone to buy it?
Bro, I mean, you know what? When you first start a business, you're like, oh yeah, it's my business, my baby. Um,
Hmm. Yep.
but then I watched people abuse my baby. You know what I mean? My baby got beat up. You know,
Yep.
baby
Yeah.
got demolished. You know,
Yeah.
um, baby went without food for a long time, and then you
Yeah.
realize like having a business is an expression of commerce and creation. You
Yeah.
know, the ultimate expression of it is it's selling. Uh, it is the ultimate act of commerce. Is you build something that sells and people find value in it, in the products, but then the whole company is so valuable that people take the whole thing. Um, I I used to be totally against selling the company until I learned something really important, which is I don't have to sell the whole company necessarily, like the name. I can sell the contracts. So I'm going to go find the contracts that are sellable. And
Interesting.
as a result, it makes the company sellable, obviously. But I
Yeah.
have a position where I can say, I'll sell this, I'll sell that. And also strategizing, kind of like the bigs, I have to have little sub companies to handle certain things, whether it be real estate or assets, sub companies that handle that, like will roll IP out into other companies so
Okay.
that they can be sellable. I may never want to
Gotcha.
get rid of Blue Gyra. I started it. I love it. Um, would I sell it if somebody asked me? Yeah, I mean, but you should want to express commerce at the highest freaking level. You should want to build something that somebody wants so bad that they'll give you multiples on what it's worth.
Yeah.
In
7x,
honesty,
10x, something like
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
defense, man, you're 12x easy. Um,
Really?
yeah, well, if you have government contracts, you got to think if you let's say you have a 10-year contract, 5-year contract, it's
Yeah.
going to it's going to earn you $34 million, and that's like one contract, right? But you have other contracts in there as well. Your multiples go through the roof because it's the government that's paying.
Right.
So
Interesting.
they have the highest credit in the world.
I'm more familiar with obviously the tech scene and those type of multiples, which is still really good, but usually you're looking at like 7 to 10%. That's really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends on the company and that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess it does make sense if you are locked into something for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's a 10, 12x multiple on that, especially if there's new business being acquired through that as well.
100%. Yeah.
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 When you structure your businesses then, other than moving IP and things like that, are there things that you do specifically? And I know this is hard. I'm kind of switching the question a little bit. When you start a company, and I would say maybe a new founder, that sort of thing, like you said, it's your baby. And for me, like you're also personally attached to it because if you're getting off, it's a huge ego thing and you're wrapped up into it. It's like it's you, it really is you. That's what
Right.
you're doing out there in the world to try and create value, or whatever it is. So detaching yourself from it is very difficult. Um, Once you've gotten a couple under your belt, I think that's when you change your kind of your thought process and you start looking at it as, hey, like you said, this is a business, this is commerce, this is just economy, that's all it is. and I have essentially a job I've created for myself, you know, and I want to do a good job at that, you know. Um, are there specific things that you do though in your thought process to structure a company to make it where you're like, that's attractive?
Yeah, I mean, but you have to learn those things. A separate education. But making it attractive. One of the things we did was, we have a CFO. We use an accounting system that the bigs know and understand,
Hmm.
what's called Procas, PROCAS. It's actually it's like it's terrible, but it gives you a lot of credibility.
Gotcha.
We have a law firm on retainer. We have um, IT systems and processes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, your back end is what's attractive, because there are companies who have amazing products. They are making money, but they can't present it to anybody, and say, here's from day one to now. Here's everything. Here's the cash flow. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. And here's why we're worth this much money. And our paperwork backs it up, because they're going. If somebody buys you, they're going to do due diligence on you. So you might as
Right.
well know what the due diligence process will be,
And
and
make it easy.
yeah, make it easy. All your legal stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, if you've been sued, okay, have that over there. Loans, liabilities, have that over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Crazy people in the company, you want to get rid of them before, the purchase. And so stuff like that. It's yeah. You kind of have to be prepared for that. Are most like that? No, they're not. Most are not looking at that, but I look at it all the time, every day, because we acquire the companies now. It's
Right.
like, I know what it took to acquire them. I know I would want it better on the next company I buy. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sniffing right now for
Yeah.
companies. I'm sniffing right now for another company I can buy that complements what we do, that has good cash flow. And that's all relationship, man. Just listen to people talk. I can ask you. I can find out if your company's set up pretty well just by conversation. I don't even need to go see your company. I don't need to ask you about your books. I can just look at how organized you are, what kind of things you mention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
Interesting. Have you ever come across a key man clause? And did you have that in maybe one of your first companies?
Uh so that's something that will show up in this company.
Okay.
It's a key man clause.
Yeah.
And then we're having to add key man insurance
Okay.
to a couple of our folks. Two of them to be exact, actually three. Yeah. So
Yeah.
um, it's one of those things that it's. I'll put it like this: it's there, but people fight it all the time.
Really?
Well, it all depends on how you write that clause. All depends on what agreements are already in place. Uh,
Yeah.
what good is a key man clause if that person leaves the U.S.?
Right.
Does the law still hold? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Um, like, there's a lot of more important than the key man clause is the IP clauses.
Okay.
Anything that's generated on company property belongs to the company. That's how you beat the key man. Um, but that's why you got to have a really good law firm, a really good law firm. Yeah.
Well, that's the reason I bring it up is I don't think a lot of people think about that so much, but it's so critically important because if you have an individual or several individuals, like in your case, who are the subject matter experts on it, like that's really your company is those people. And if they're creating all this IP or whatever it is that they're doing, and you do want to sell it, but you can't support it, you don't know really what it is, then it's not really worth anything because it's like, no, you're really just buying the people, right? If they decide to switch up or move gears or whatever it is, like I said, leave the country, you're basically just out flat as a company, right?
Yeah.
So it's always something that, again, in my first ventures, my first company, like that was very much, it was me and my founder, you know, and the IP was us, you know, and things are changing so quickly. It's like the company would 100% would have died if we left it, right?
Hmm.
But now as I'm, I guess, learning, trying to learn, I'm trying to build things in such a way that if I left or if I, you know, am gone for 3 months or whatever it is, the systems run and the company still runs. That's what I'm trying to get to, which I think is what people are really interested in buying is a system. Not that I'm really thinking about selling this company, but I think it's a good learning lesson. Like you said, having those systems up in place, having something that you can go to someone and say it's worth this because of this, and making it simple. So
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a big deal, and I don't want to ever be stuck on one person
yeah,
either. So that's something that I look at now, and I go, okay, I got to make sure that I'm the holder of the IP. I got to make sure that
yeah,
there's a succession plan. I used to work for Cardinal Health as a contractor, and that was one of their big issues is that they had a ton of they had too many key people. Um, and we're talking about from people who just held a password on a server to people who had decades of knowledge that they never wrote down,
yeah,
but it also guaranteed them a job. You
right,
know,
yeah,
and that you never want to be in that situation where you don't really control your company. Um, because even if you go litigate against somebody, they can, you know, you can sit in court forever.
right,
Uh, yeah, so it's yeah. At this point, what keeps the cash flow going. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's all
yeah,
that matters. If somebody
yeah,
buys it, what keeps the cash flow going? That's all they really want.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Last question then. So, are you more interested in buying companies at this point or buying slash selling? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. Definitely want to buy a few more,
Yeah,
and um, sell off some IP, some tech. Yeah.
yeah.
Build it up, and you know, move it on out to market. Absolutely.
Is that process more fun for you? Just taking a company, modernizing it, creating more value within the company and then selling it? Or are you, because I feel like the thought process has to be a little different if you are like, I want to be the next Boeing, right? Or I want to be one of the big players. Your thought process would be a little different than, hey, I just want to kind of manage these companies and that sort of thing and move money around and take my cut in between. Almost like the difference between I want to be a realtor who, sells the homes, right? Versus, or someone who flips homes. I want to buy it, a beat up property, fix it up, sell it. Or I want to be someone who's in the rental game and, I just want to own, massive amounts of, properties all over the place. Do you see what I'm saying? Like those are kind of in the same space, two very different models.
I mean, I realized and been affirmed quite heavily that I'm a deal guy. I like the connection. I like
Yeah.
seeing it move. I don't need to be in the minutia. I've gone through a season where I had to learn the minutia.
Yeah.
My first acquisition was hard. Um, it was lengthy. Um, didn't use the resources I had to help make it better. Did it come out good? Yes, thank the Lord. It came out good. Because divine knowledge trumps my knowledge all day, right? But
Yeah.
I at this point, the level I want to play at is um, what Warren Buffett talks about when he was a kid. There was a story. Well, I guess he knew somebody else who just connected companies and then sold off the companies,
Yeah.
sold off this high value portfolio to other people who needed it. As we move into other areas like that I don't have a lot of information on. So I love. I've come to understand I love transportation. So we have a train company. We make ground support vehicles. We have drones. So naturally, we're going to go toward ships
Yeah.
next. All right. Well, I don't want to start a shipbuilding company. There's no way, no how. I watched Company Men movie. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have. Yep.
Okay.
Good
They
movie.
had to. It's amazing. It's an amazing Ben Affleck. It's an amazing freaking movie.
Yeah.
But they had to go start this from scratch, really hard.
Right.
There are companies out there that here's what I've found. There's always a company in the area you want to be in who has a brand, a reputation. They got workers, they got infrastructure, but they have a terrible back end. Terrible back end. And that's where I'm finding my strong suit is I know now what a really good back end looks like.
Hmm.
And I'm learning more about what a lean, good back end looks like. So, like bringing that into a deal, I got 2 more rail companies that I can pick up now,
Yeah.
and probably for nothing
Yeah.
because I'm just providing consistent payroll and a really solid back end. You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I would never want to start. I would never want to start and moving into something like maritime as we go forward. Like some of this stuff is impossible to start. There's some businesses now that because of regulation in the U.S. you're not going to start, and I'd rather get them to answer the question, get them, and and then somehow meet the right people. It's kind of a prayer around right now. It's like I want to meet the people who will buy what I have. You know, and I want
Mm.
to get in those rooms, put them together. Here's all the paperwork. This company's for sale. Buy this one to get this contract. Put it together. So, you know what I mean? Like flight
Yeah.
training. I don't want to own 50 airplanes, man. I do
Yeah.
not. But I like flight training. Let me buy a company, has the airplanes, bad back in, put it together, get the contract, keep moving. That's something. That's where I live on it. I don't, like you said, I don't want to be. I don't want to have to deal with it every day. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but I like
Interesting.
connecting though. Yeah,
Yeah. A connections guy. So,
yeah, enjoy it. Yeah.
well, cool. I appreciate it. This is a fun one. So, if you are still around, thanks for listening and checking us out. Subscribe. We got a lot of these coming out every Friday. So, yeah. Appreciate your time, Randall.